So welcome everyone, good to be with you on this last session before we head out for some fun. I'm Carmen Logue and I'm a product manager here at InterSystems, and I know we've been talking a lot about our vision and future and all that kind of stuff. Today I'm really going to talk to you about two things that we're doing, that we're investing with InterSystems IRIS BI that we've done. One that we've done fairly recently and is coming out shortly, and one that is due out a little bit later this year. But I'm very excited to talk to you about both these things because it really represents an investment for our existing products and should be something that you guys can take advantage of right away once they're available. So let me ask you, how many of you are existing either DeepSea or IRIS BI users? Can you just give me a hand raise? Okay, so some of you, a lot of you? Okay, great. So I did include a couple of slides just to tell you what IRIS BI is for those of you who are not current users. So those of you who are, you can doze off for a little bit, and then you can come back in when we're talking about some of the new things that we're doing. InterSystems IRIS BI was added to the product quite a while ago, actually, and the intention was really to give our people who are building applications as well as people who are delivering solutions inside their organizations, a way to include analytic components. So for example, if you wanted to include information about number of people who are in the emergency room right now, or maybe you wanted to include information about number of tests completed this week, number in progress, and number that are still to be done. So those are the kinds of things that IRIS BI was intended to address, was to allow you to build those into those fabulous applications that you're building on top of InterSystems IRIS. And our products in HealthShare, the talk that was just before this, Health Insight, is also a consumer of InterSystems IRIS BI. So a couple of things about it that I think are the really key advantages. One is that it runs very close to the data, so it can be very fast. It can update in I'll call it near real time. And the other is that it's very flexible, which can sometimes add some complexity, but you can do almost anything with it. It's quite flexible in that way. And the third thing really is that it's embeddable. It's embeddable in your applications, and it leverages a lot of the functionality of InterSystems IRIS. And there are really three components of InterSystems IRIS BI. So one is the modeling engine, and so that's designed for somebody who has a good understanding of the data, has a good understanding of what the needs are, and can create the models or cubes. The other one, the second part of it, is the analyzer, and that's built for somebody who is maybe a little bit closer to the business requirements and is sort of slicing and dicing, looking at things in different ways. It's a pivot table user interface, so you can pull things in to look at X by Y. You can create filters and drill downs and things in that user interface, so it really allows you to kind of explore and experiment with that data. And then the third component is dashboarding, which I think we probably all understand, and that's kind of the very end user, somebody who's looking at the end results. So that's targeted more to the business user who just needs to kind of see what's going on, maybe change some filters, maybe move some things around, but has, less sort of hands-on keyboard. So that's your very quick introduction of what InterSystems IRIS BI is. So now I'm going to talk about two things that we've spent a fair bit of time on. If you were just in the Tech Exchange, you heard Dan Bissix, one of our developers, talk in a lot more detail about this. We were hoping we'd be opposite times of each other, or he'd be after me. But for those of you who weren't there, I'll just explain a little bit about some work that we've done in the recent past. So between versions 25.1 and finishing it really in 25.2. So this is something that will be out a little bit later this summer, in about a month. We had collected a number of feature requests and things that people wanted us to do with our Cube Manager. And just to step back a little bit, the Cube Manager is what we added to the product in order to help people manage the updates to their cube. So cubes are updated either with a synchronization, which is just really updates from your last update, or a full cube rebuild, which actually completely deletes the facts and builds them back up. So those are two distinct ways. So a lot of our customers do things where they're They're synchronizing on a fairly regular basis, maybe once an hour, once a day, and then they're rebuilding maybe once a week, right, at a sort of low activity time. And a couple of things that three things really that we focused on in this feature are to sort of build in some optimization. So to some extent, protecting our customers from themselves, right? So what we try to do is we've changed the model a little bit to say, we want you to think about how quickly you want to update your cubes, and we'll help you decide whether it should be a sync or whether it should be a build, whereas before we were asking customers to make that decision for themselves in the UI. So what we will do is we will sync every time it's possible, because that's just a lower cost thing to do, and if we can't sync, then we will build. So that's the first area. The second area is to put up some additional guardrails around dependency analysis. So one of the pieces of feedback that we had from our customers was that in some cases, we weren't building the dependent cubes, and things were, we had some potential inaccuracy in that. So one of the things we're doing now is identifying all those dependencies and doing that build for you. Now, the thing that you can barely see it there, but on the far right corner of that screen, we give you the list of dependent cubes. So you can see that, and you can also see that before you decide to build that cube if you want to, so you know what's going to happen. And that will also appear inside the analyzer when you're doing those builds as well. And the final thing that we did was just to provide additional information to you when you're in the Cube Manager user interface to see whether or not the most recent build or sync was successful. So we'll give you a success failure there. We'll tell you when that build was completed, and we'll tell you how long it took, okay? So this is, I think, super useful for people that are trying to figure out when they build the next time or when they update the next time, how long will it take? It'll give people a little indication of that there. So that was one area that we've been working on with one investment that we've been making in InterSystems IRIS BI, was to kind of take on some of those Cube Manager feature requests and things that we've heard from customers and try to have an impact there. We had a huge list. We got a lot of them. We didn't get all of them, but I think we did a pretty good job in sort of sussing that out. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about, which I'm super excited about, is something that is in active development, we're actively working on right now. And this is a new dashboard overlay. So what that means is that we're keeping the existing dashboard user interface that you have. We're providing kind of a overlay on that UI to make just a more modern and refreshed look for that dashboard. So you'll see. I think the big takeaway that I want you to hear is that we will those dashboards that you already have or that you've made in the existing user interface will be automatically ported over, and I'm going to do a demo here so you can see what that looks like. This is based on a community project that was done some time ago, so we have some customers who are already using this project, but we're making some, but the big difference there is we're going to be shipping that with IRIS BI along with the charting engine that supports it. Okay, so that's something I think a big piece of news. And then we're taking that project, bringing it inside, but we're also doing a couple of other things with it. One of them was to remove any backend component dependencies. So what that means is we created another set of IRIS BI APIs so that we could just use the APIs, and this overlay really is an overlay. We're not installing any backend software. It really is a front-end only application. So if you're a user of IRIS BI APIs, that might be something that you can take advantage of as well. The second thing we're doing is to add a feature to create dashboards from that same user interface. So I think the big thing there that we're trying to do is keep the people that are really interested in dashboards and just working with dashboards, to keep them in that UI. Okay, because we're not making changes to the analyzer or the architect UIs as part of this project. Those will still remain the same. But for people who are really working with dashboards, the intention is to keep them in that user interface. Okay, so I'm going to take us through a demo so you can see both the existing UI and the new UI, and I'll talk us through what that looks like. So let's do that, and that should go full screen. There it goes. Okay, so this is the existing IRIS BI UI. It's got all of it's got lists of dashboards and folders in it. I'm gonna open up this all charts, which is has been one of our samples for a long time. So maybe you've seen that before. It gives you a lot of the charts that we have available in IRIS BI right now. You can move things around, all that kind of stuff. But you can see that's what it looks like now. Now I'm gonna go to the new URL, and I'm gonna log in using the same security that we have for all of our existing IRIS stuff, so it's that same thing. And I'm gonna log in there, and I'm gonna see a list of folders and a list of dashboards as well, so it's a slightly different landing page kind of concept. And I'm gonna go to that same all charts example, so you can see what that looks like in the new UI, okay? And so that's using the same back-end created dashboard in that new UI. And as part of that UI, you get kind of that list up at the top there of other widget modifiers that you can do. In IRIS BI, you can add some of those things. In the current version, you can add some of those things. But these come with each of the widgets in this new UI. So I can do some of the same things that I did before, which is to do the drill downs. If you've got those set up, you can see I'm going from, I think it was snacks to bagels to et cetera. So I can do some of that stuff. I can also do the sorting and other things in there just from that UI. Now, the other thing I'll add that I mentioned is that this does this for you automatically. And you can see that, oops, it went too fast. You can see that chart had the bubbles in it. You'll see it when we come back. It looked kind of like a bad music clef, right, in the original. So, but when you expand it, it looks pretty good. So you may have to do some adjustments of sizing and that kind of stuff once you get there. So there you can see it, right? Definitely doesn't look as good as it did expanded. So what I'm gonna do now is actually move some things out of the way and make some room so that I can expand that chart so that it looks a little better. So even though we did that transition automatically, we might wanna move some things around and make that change just to make it look a little bit better. So now I think looking a lot better there. So that's what I meant when I said there are some things that you might have to do, and as well as some of the mini analyzer and those kinds of things will also not be there. So now go back and I'm going to, actually before I do that, I'm going to show you how you would share the dashboard. So you can take that, paste that in, either embed that into another application, or in this case, what I'm doing is just going and opening it as a URL. I still have those controls if I want to allow people to use those, so I can still just, even if it's embedded somewhere, I can still make some of those changes with sorting and switching back and forth to the grid versus the chart. Now I'm going to create another dashboard, just in case you didn't believe me on the first one, because that's sort of one of our standard all charts things, so we might have that everywhere. I'm going to create a new dashboard now, and then I'll show you real quickly what that looks like as it's automatically generated in the new sort of dashboard overlay. So I'm just going to create a couple of widgets for that dashboard, and this is, again, in that existing UI, because we haven't yet added the feature to add new dashboards. And I'm going to add two charts. One of them will be, I think, a bar chart, and one of them is a pie chart, and then we'll bring that over and look at it in the new UI. Okay. There it is. There's my bar. Yeah, and I think just a couple of other things. I'll add some caveats at the end, but think of any questions you have about this. I think we're going to be learning as we complete the development on this as well. But I think we'll have better information once we get closer to it about which things come over well and which things don't. So yeah, so now I'm going to add that second chart, and then we'll save that, and then we'll go over to the other one. Okay, the famous favorite colors widget. Yep. Okay. All right, so now I've got a bar, I've got a pie. I'm just going to organize those a little bit before I save it, and then we'll go over to the other UI. Yep. All right. Yep. So now I've got that. You have to remember I called it the ready dash there. And so I can look at it here, and then I'm going to go over to the other UI, and we'll go back to that main area there where I've got my folders and my dashboards, and I can either search for that Ready Dash, or I actually see it on that second row there. So I'm going to click on that there, and then you see it's automatically rendered in the new UI as well. So just in case you didn't believe me with that first round, this is creating a new one and seeing it there in the UI. So as I said, a couple of caveats. I'm just going to watch my time here. I'm trying to keep it so you guys can get out. This is forward-looking, so we are targeting starting early access programs in the fall, September, October-ish timeframe, and with a goal of trying to get this to 26.1 in the early part of next year. And I think some of that is obviously going to be dependent on what feedback we hear from our early access customers. But that's sort of our existing target right now. And the other thing I just want to call out is that the architect and the analyzer are not part of this refresh. But I think we're really targeting those end users who are primarily staying in the dashboard and making this hopefully something beautiful for to show to your executives at least, right? All right. So with that, I think we are, yes, I've finished with 1 minute to spare. So if there are any questions, happy to take those now. And this is where you would sign up. Keep watching this site for when, it's not announced yet when the EAP start, but once we have it available there, you can sign up there. Yes?
Is the analyzer or architect UI refresh something that might be on the roadmap further down the line, or is it really going to be focused mainly on the dashboards?
For what we're working on now, it's focused on the dashboards. So actually, I'll just repeat the question. The question was, is architect and analyzer on the roadmap? I think UIs in general are on the roadmap, but we don't have a timeline yet for the analyzer and architect. All right. Well, I hope you're as excited as I am about this. Okay. Thank you.